the best rapper of every year since 1990 or so. This is an idea that's been done by many, including publications like Complex Music, fellow creators on YouTube, and even some creators I've seen on TikTok. But here's my take on this idea. I'll be going through the years of hip hop starting in 1990 and ending in our current year of 2022, and basically talking about who ran hip hop that year. Now, what does that mean? It's not necessarily who had the best album that year, who had the best song, who sold the most records, or who won the most awards. Think of it as like an MVP award. I'll be choosing one person who I think had the best season of music that year. Think of it this way, if we had to go back and look through all these years and we had to choose one person to represent that specific year, who would we pick? Because as we go through all of these years, there are a lot of different styles and subgenres of hip hop to consider. Think of everything I mentioned earlier, but all together on one resume for one season. Someone who had a great project release that year, some of the best songs of the year, and maybe went on a killer feature run that year. And really someone who dominates the hip hop culture and space. That doesn't mean you have to be the best selling artist or the most popular artist of that year, but it does have to mean that somewhere, somehow, people care about what you did for hip hop that year. Also, I'll be giving out some honorable mentions for some years because obviously more than one person can dominate the hip hop space at a time, so I want to make sure every rapper or artist that I think about gets their fair share of appreciation and attention that they deserve. Lastly, as a reference point, I was born in 1998, so I wasn't old enough and frankly alive to live through some of the most legendary years of hip hop. But through reading through certain excerpts, listening to other people talk, and listening to the storytelling of others, I can attempt to grasp what the situation was like and what the culture was like, though I can't speak from a personal experience until I become of a certain age, so please keep that in mind. Make sense? I hope so. It's not that difficult to follow. If you don't get it now, you'll probably get it along the way, but let's start on the year hip hop was invented, 1990. That was a joke, by the way. 1990, I'm giving this one to Ice Cube. Ice Cube is one of the best songwriters hip hop has ever seen and just one of the best talents, so I'm glad we could start this list off with a legend like himself. And this year, he released America's Most Wanted, his first solo project after splitting from NWA, and this project was a classic. I don't think this year was a super tough decision, but if I had to consider anybody else or give an honorable mention, I'd probably say LL Cool J with Mama Said Knock You Out. 1991, I'm giving it to Q-Tip of A Tribe Called Quest. This year definitely goes to Q-Tip in my opinion. I'm not sure anyone else comes super close. With the release of the Low End Theory and plenty of other standout verses from Q-Tip, this would go on to set many trends that would be a staple in the genre and it would inspire the minds of many other creatives. And Q-Tip was the center of it all. 1992, Redman. This wasn't one of the most exciting years to talk about in my opinion, but that doesn't mean there is any lack of talent to discuss. This year clearly goes to Redman, who helped bridge the gap between the styles of 80s rap and the early styles and trends of 90s hip hop. His album What? The album would be the big notable release to check out. 1993, Snoop Dogg. After the release of The Chronic by Dr. Dre at the end of 1992 and Doggy Style near the end of 1993, this was Snoop's time. This was his big arrival as one of the premier rappers in the game and the start of a legendary career that's still going on to this day. 1994, Nas. Nas was absolutely the MVP of 1994 with his release of the now classic album Illmatic at the age of just 20, with much of the album's recording and writing coming in his late teenage years. This album had singles like It Ain't Hard to Tell, The World Is Yours, Halftime, and album cuts like New York State of Mind. The elephant in the room of this year is obviously Biggie with the release of Ready to Die, but I feel like Biggie fits more so into next year than he does of 1994, and I'll explain why. 1995, Biggie Smalls, aka the Notorious B.I.G. From what I've read and people that I've talked to, although Ready to Die, one of my favorite hip hop albums ever, was released in 1994, this album really exploded in 1995. To compare it to a lesser modern album, think of an album like Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial by Roddy Ricch. This album and his hit single The Box were released in December 2019, but they blew up and became super popular in 2020, helping him become one of the most popular rappers of that year. That concept of something blowing up months later is what I understand happened with Ready to Die. Not that people didn't like Ready to Die whenever it first released, it's just that the album only gained popularity as time went on. It's not like Big was a nobody in 1994 and nobody bumped his music, it's just that he was even more popular and in fact I think the most popular in 1995. Plus, the more time listeners can sit with music and they can unravel some of the lyrics that are on this album, the better they tend to get. And I have to mention, Biggie also dropped Who Shot Ya in February of 1995, which is one of the most iconic hip hop songs and instrumentals of all time. 1996, Tupac. This is when hip hop was getting good, and Tupac was definitely the MVP for this year though. With the release of All Eyes on Me and Hit 'Em Up, I don't think anybody else can claim the throne for this year. There were some worthy rappers though, like Jay-Z debuting with Reasonable Doubt and Nas following up the success of Illmatic with It Was Written. Biggie was also around, and no pun intended, he was big as ever. I don't think any of those rappers had as big of a year as Pac, but I do think they were notable enough to be mentioned. 1997, Biggie Smalls. Unfortunately, this was the year that Biggie died and hip hop changed forever. His album Life After Death, released just 16 days after his death. There were other talented rappers and great releases this year, but again, I think this was a year for Biggie. 1998, DMX. With the release of Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, and It's Dark and Hell is Hot, I think this year definitely goes to DMX. It kind of pains me because I want to give this year to Lauryn Hill with her iconic release of The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Also, Jay-Z had a big year with Volume 2, Hard Knock Life, but I wouldn't say he had an MVP year. 1999, Mos Def. Another stacked year for the genre. We have some albums by some of the legends like Eminem with the Slim Shady LP, Jay-Z with Volume 3, Dr. J with 2001. I'm actually going to give this one to Mos Def because of Black on Both Sides though. I don't think this is the strongest MVP year, but I don't think it's unreasonably out of question. Unless you want to argue Dr. Dre for 2001 or you're a really big Eminem fan. Mos Def is coming off a Black Star album with Talib Kweli in 1998, and this album Black on Both Sides was received well, especially with singles like Miss Fat Booty and Mathematics. 2000, Eminem. This is the year of Eminem without a doubt. With the release of the Marshall Mathers LP in May of 2000 and singles like The Real Slim Shady, The Way I Am, and Stan, this year was just dominant for him. I would like to give an honorable mention though to Andre 3000 of Outkast when Cast released their album Stankonia with singles like Bombs Over Baghdad and Miss Jackson, later releasing So Fresh and So Clean in early 2001. 2001, Jay-Z. I'll give this year to Jay-Z because this is the time period where he was getting busy, with Rockefeller's The Dynasty album, The Blueprint, and his MTV Live album. The only other person who I think challenged him for the throne is the person who I think had the best performance on his song Renegade, Eminem. He didn't release a project in 2001, but I think his carryover from 2000 was strong enough for him to be in contention for the throne of 2001. 2002, Eminem. 2002 goes to Eminem in my opinion with the release of The Eminem Show and songs like Till I Collapse, Superman, and Soldier, and the release of 8 Mile and that soundtrack. This was for sure his year, no question. But shout out to 50 Cent and Cameron. 2003, 50 Cent. This was the year of 50 Cent with his album Get Rich or Die Tryin' and songs like In the Club, one of the hardest hip-hop songs and hardest instrumentals ever, 21 Questions, and some hot features too. Jay-Z had a great year with the Black Album, and this was still prime Eminem, so of course he had a good year, but this year belongs to 5th. 2004, Kanye West. This was the year of Kanye. This young producer kid from Chicago who's making moves in the music industry with names like Jay-Z. Kanye's debut album, The College Dropout, made waves across the genre as he quickly became one of the big names amongst the current MCs. He also had singles off the album such as Through the Wire, Slow Jams, All Falls Down, Jesus Walks, and some fire music videos as well. 2005, 50 Cent. This was a bit of a stacked year depending on where you'd like to look. You have the South taking over with artists like T.I. and Jeezy. Kanye continues to build on his hype with Late Registration. 50 Cent releases The Massacre with a single like Candy Shop, which was a huge hit. The Game releases his debut album, The Documentary, and Common releases his great album, B. I'm gonna give this one to 50 Cent, but if you want to argue for someone else, I won't be mad. 2006, Lil Wayne. I want to give this to T.I. though. I'm gonna give it to Wayne. 2000s, I don't know though. Hold on. He had the Carter 2 and Like Father, Like Son with Birdman, and T.I. had King. I'll give it to Wayne. Oh no, my light went out. Fuck. So the lighting is good now. Should be fixed. Let's keep it going. 2006, Lil Wayne. I can no longer ignore the impact and the dominance of the South. This year definitely belongs to them. I'll give it to Lil Wayne with the release of the Carter 2 near the end of 2005 and his album Like Father Like Son with Birdman. But T.I. dominated the year as well with several Billboard placements with his singles and his great album King. 2007, Kanye West. This was the arrival of superstar Kanye with his album Graduation and many of the hit singles off of that like Can't Tell Me Nothing, Good Life, Stronger, and Flashing Lights. I gotta lean back a little bit more because I forget the shadow casting. Oh, look at the hair. Oh my God. The one flap on this side, my right side, was bothering me. Oh, I look schmexy. Oh my God. Let's get into it though. 2008, Lil Wayne. I think this was Lil Wayne's best MVP season with the Carter 3, Dedication 3, several hit singles and features like Swagger Like Us, Love in This Club Part 2, Can't Believe It with T-Pain. Nobody was touching Wayne's output this year. But again, the South was just as strong as ever with artists like T.I. and Jeezy having dominant years, just not MVP years in my opinion. 2009, Kid Cudi. I'm giving this year to Kid Cudi to mark the shift in sound in hip-hop. With the release of his album Man on the Moon, The End of the Day, we'd start to see a shift in sound in hip-hop that's still relevant even to this day, quite frankly. I shouldn't have did this, bro. I look good. I look good. Ooh, let me focus though. We must stay focused. He released singles like Day and Night, Make Her Say, and Pursuit of Happiness. Obviously, Cudi was heavily influenced by Kanye West's album 808s and Heartbreak, released in 2008, but Cudi continued that sound and fulfilled it to its fullest, in my opinion. Plus, Kanye didn't even invent that sound. If you ever hear T-Pain talk about that, T-Pain was like, I showed Kanye some music and I showed Kanye my album, and he basically jacked that and just made 808s and Heartbreak. So like, I think T-Pain and Kanye are cool, but T-Pain was like, I definitely showed this man my ideas, and then he just took them and just claims he's like the grandfather of like that sound now. Jay-Z also had a dominant year with the release of The Blueprint 3 and hit singles like Death of Autotune, Run This Town, Empire State of Mind, and on to the next one. We also see Kanye continuing his stature as one of the best artists in the game, and some young kid named Drake popping off with his single Best I Ever Had on his So Far Gone mixtape. I don't know. 2010, Kanye West. 2010 is the year of Kanye West with his album My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, with singles like Power, Runaway, and Monster. And even more non-album singles in the Good Friday series, in which Kanye released weekly free singles for fans to enjoy. Kanye had the game in the palm of his hands at this time, and for good reason. 2011, Drake. Remember that Drake kid from Canada? It turns out he's pretty good. He dominated this year with the release of his album Take Care and singles such as Marvin's Room, Headlines, Make Me Proud, The Motto, and really took over mainstream hip-hop. Or rather, added a seat at the table in the mainstream for himself. 2012, Kendrick Lamar. Another young rapper you may have heard of. In 2012, Kendrick Lamar released his sophomore studio album, Good Kid, Mad City. One of the best hip-hop albums ever, and some smash hit singles like Swimming Pools, Mad City, Money Trees, Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, Sing About Me. I mean, this was pretty much an instant classic. 2013, Drake. Another huge year for Drake, and my personal favorite album of his was released this year, and nothing was the same. With singles like Started From the Bottom, Hold On We're Going Home, All Me, Pound Cake, Worst Behavior, I think some people were starting to realize this Drake guy would be around for some time. 2014, I think this is probably the most interesting year for modern hip hop, because there are several different ways I could go with this. I could go for an artist like Freddie Gibbs with his Madlib collab project Pinata. I could go with Run the Jewels for their project Run the Jewels 2. A young artist in Atlanta by the name of Young Thug really started to pop off just as much as another artist named Future really started to pop off at this time. Schoolboy Q had a great release with Oxymoron. And rappers like Drake didn't go anywhere. Even though he didn't release an album this year, he constantly stayed on the minds of everyone with his OVO sound single releases and several hot features out there. But I gotta be honest, when it comes to 2014, there are only really two big names that I think of. Most would think of J. Cole because of his legendary album 2014 Forest Hills Drive. It has 2014 in the title of the album. The thing with this album though is that it was released in December of 2014, with singles like Apparently, Wet Dreams, No Role Models, and Love Yours becoming singles next year in 2015, and even later evolving into 2016. It's really unfortunate for Cole because 2015 and 2016 end up being some of the most stacked years for modern hip hop, so he was one of the most popular rappers in 2014 moving forward, but because there were so many other artists, it's not like he was guaranteed an MVP award or the best rapper award for those years coming up. If they weren't stacked years, I'm sure he would walk away with the MVP, at least in my opinion. I'm gonna give 2014 to Nicki Minaj with the release of her album, The Pink Print, with singles like Pills and Potions, Only, Anaconda, and Truffle Butter. I'm putting my foot down and I'm saying Nicki Minaj was the most dominant rapper of 2014. I remember Nicki receiving a lot of hate back in the day because people thought she couldn't rap well, she only talked about sex and her body in all of her music, a common criticism that most male listeners give to female artists and more specifically female rappers even now today, but that's a whole nother topic for another day. I'm not sure how people feel about Nicki nowadays, but I'm sure some will have an issue with this pick. If you do disagree with me, then hopefully you can at least understand why I made this pick and that I'm not just pulling it out of nowhere. 2014, interesting year. 2015, another stacked year. This is a stacked year for music, no doubt, but if we're really talking about who walks away with the MVP award for hip hop, there's only two names. This is Future versus Drake. I'd like to give a shout out to Kendrick Lamar, who released what I think is the best hip hop album ever this year with To Pimp a Butterfly. And I feel like I have to mention Fetty Wap. For some reason, nostalgia has really kicked in with people and they think Fetty Wap was like the best rapper of 2015 or even the most popular rapper of 2015. And he did have some hit singles, but ultimately the reason Fetty Wap fell off is because his sound never really developed. And whenever that showed up on an album, a project, and people got the same song 15 times in a row, his hype really started to die down, unfortunately. Now back to the main two, Future versus Drake. While Drake was working on his hyped up Views from the Six studio album, he released a surprise mixtape with no promotion in If You're Reading This Is Too Late, which sold like 500,000 first week. Then they got accused of having ghostwriters by Meek Mill, which started the beef, leading to Drake dropping his huge single and diss track back to back, and later in the year, Drake collabed with Future on What a Time to Be Alive. not to mention other features and Lucy singles he released that didn't make any projects that year. Future released one of the best modern trap projects. Some people think it's the best trap project of all time with DS2, also teaming up with great producers with his 56 Nights and Beast Mode releases, and later on, as I already mentioned, he collabed with Drake on What a Time to Be Alive. You have two of the most popular artists at the peak of their artistry and the peak of their popularity. If there's any year that deserved a tie, this would be the year, but I don't like ties. I like there to be a clear winner and a clear loser, unfortunately for some. For this year, I'll give the award to Future. For two reasons. One, it doesn't feel right to give Drake an MVP award in a year where his artistry and credibility was questioned with the Ghostwriter controversy. And when it comes to their mixtape, What a Time to Be Alive, by all accounts, this was a collaborative effort in which both artists wanted to work with each other, but I do feel like it was more of Drake wanting to work with Future than it was Future wanting to work with Drake. With production from a young Metro Boomin and DJ Esco, this project felt like a Future mixtape, but just having one of the most popular rappers at the time, Drake, as his teammate for the ultimate cosign. That's not to say Drake didn't carry his weight and he just rode on the coattails of Future. He definitely did his thing on the mixtape. I'm just saying if I had to give an MVP award and I had to choose between the two, I would choose Future more so than I would choose Drake for this year. So for 2015, Future Hendrix gets the MVP award. 2016, the most stacked year for music. 2016 is one of the biggest years in music ever, let alone hip-hop, with releases from Kanye, Drake, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Future, 21 Savage, Lil Uzi Vert, Danny Brown, Vince Staples, YG, Schoolboy Q, Beyonce, Solange, Frank Ocean, Bruno Mars, Anderson .Paak, A Tribe Called Quest, Bon Iver, David Bowie, Car Seat Headrest, Chance the Rapper, Rihanna, Kaytranada, No Name, Young Thug, The 1975, Mitski, Ariana Grande, and I'm sure there's some names I even left out of that. Man, I just try to appreciate how good this year was for music any chance that I get, because this doesn't happen like ever. But now let's talk about who dominated this year specifically in hip hop. For me, when I think of 2016 in hip hop, I think of a few names. For the mainstream, I think of Kanye West, I think of Lil Uzi Vert and the rise of SoundCloud rappers and SoundCloud as a platform, and I also think of Chance the Rapper and the rise of independent artists. For 2016, I'm gonna give the award to Chance the Rapper. He released his mixtape Coloring Book, which was so good people just assume now that it was an album, and this mixtape later got him a Grammy for Best New Artist. There are so many other artists you can give this award to in 2016 because it was such a big year, but I feel like Chance's blow up was undeniable, with one of his biggest hits in No Problem, his always outspoken support and activism in Chicago, and those damn 3 hats that everyone wanted to wear for whatever reason. As Chance says, he made the 3 more famous than Steph. 2017, Kendrick Lamar. 2017 is an underrated year for hip-hop across the genre in my opinion. We have a huge return for Jay-Z with his really mature and greatly produced 444. We have Tyler the Creator taking a huge turn in his career and quite frankly redefining himself with his album Flower Boy. But there's only one name who I think dominated this year from start to finish, and I think that's Kendrick Lamar with his studio album, Damn. Not only his most commercially successful album, but the only hip-hop album, and he's the only hip-hop artist ever to win a Pulitzer Prize. Like, that's crazy. This album also sparked several fan theories for those who care to dig deeper into the lyricism and storytelling. One of the theories is that this album could be played in reverse for a whole different meaning, a theory that Kendrick and the TDE team confirmed when they released the collector's edition of Damn with the tracklist flipped in reverse. 2018, another stacked year. Besides 2021, this was probably the most recent stacked year we've had for hip-hop, highlighted by Drake having a killer year with features and singles before his album, only to have his momentum halted by Pusha T with an instant classic album and one of the best diss tracks ever, Travis Scott dominating the mainstream and becoming the next superstar in hip-hop, you have Kanye producing 5 albums in one summer with 2 releases himself, and other acts like Playboi Carti's Die Lit, JPEG Mafia's Veteran, Denzel Curry's Taboo, Saba's Care For Me, and even more. To me, this year is between Travis Scott and Kanye West as the most dominant year. I'm gonna go with Travis. Astroworld was one of the biggest releases in music regardless of genre that year. I think people look back on it reluctantly because of the tragedy that happened at his festival, but this was a big moment for him and this was a dominant year for him. 2019, DaBaby. 2019 belonged to DaBaby. I mean, he had an amazing feature run and he solidified this year with his releases Baby on Baby and Kirk. Very strange as there weren't many other MVP candidates this year, but DaBaby snuck in and he took it convincingly. 2020, Lil Baby. This year belonged to Lil Baby in my opinion, no doubt, no questions, full stop. Several smash hit singles, the best-selling album of all genres this year with My Turn, and several features where he took over other artists' songs and made them his own. This was the start of what I hope is a lengthy and a joyous career. Also, I want to give an honorable mention to Roddy Ricch with the release of Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial, carrying momentum into 2020 with his biggest single, The Box. 2021, Tyler, the Creator. 2021 is a great bounce back year for hip hop after the pandemic and so many tragedies that happened in 2020. When I think of this year, I think of Kanye West Donda and the big event that was, J. Cole's dominant return with the off season, the UK rap scene really impressing me, Baby Keem and other acts impressing me, and Tyler the Creator. I think this year belongs to Tyler the Creator with his Call Me If You Get Lost album and everything that came with that. The revival of the Gangsta Grillz mixtape idea, and funny enough, after many Tyler fans weren't feeling the sounds of Flower Boy and Igor, he finally gave them the luxury rap album that they wanted. 2022? How about you decide? There are going to be a lot of big releases this year in music and specifically in hip hop, but who do you think is going to take home the crown and who do you think is going to take home the MVP award? Let me ask it this way. Who do you think has the crown right now, or who do you think is going to have the crown by the end of the year? Perhaps I'll revisit this idea as we can look back over all the albums that released this year. Well, thanks for taking that history deep dive for me. This was a really fun project to work on, and I'd love to do the same thing and go through hip hop albums through the years or hip hop songs through the years. Maybe that'll be my next idea, but we'll see. Let me know if you disagree with any of the years that I picked, and let me know why, because that's the most important part, but also be sure to keep it civil in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe, and turn the notification bell on to join the Slater Mob, aka JayDotMafia, and until next time, y'all. Also, I was so happy. Someone commented in my last video, they said, Fantano's got to step it up. This dude might have the best teeth in the game. And I was like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Shout out to mom and pops. Let's start from the top. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And we all want to be happy. And we all want to be happy. And we all wanna be happy, and we all wanna be, cook it up, let me cook it, yeah. Gunning shots like Devin Booker, yeah. You stole my style, I caught you looking, yeah. All my diamonds shining ruthless, yeah. I clean it up just like a toothpick, yeah. Run up, I'm blaming with 2 sticks, yeah. What you know about the movement, yeah. What you know about the, First I gotta thank myself, then I gotta thank who's next. Then I gotta thank all the random motherfuckers that be running on my check. I need it now, cause I'm on some fuck you pay me, cause you know I'm the one like McGrady. Flew over your head like a fucking Tom Hanks scene. I don't talk to feds cause a pig can never catch me. Cruising through, I'm really different. Turn your main chick to a mistress. You say you want smoke, then I'm with it. We pull up with choppers, extensions. Anyone talking can get it. You say the wrong thing and you finish. I just sent my shorty some spinach. I told her come through to come get it. And we all wanna be happy. Do I look happy? Do I look happy to you? I be. Yes, sir. I be.